Whipple Family Misadventures Book 11 Between the Light and the Darkness Chapter 3. Shadow woke up with a start the next morning. He had laid awake for hours the night before, worried and unable to sleep. At some point he must have dozed off. The sun was already high in the sky, sunlight streaming in the window. Getting out of bed, he saw that Silver was already up and gone from their room. Frowning, Shadow knew exactly what he needed to do right off the bat, and that was find his dad and at least attempt to talk to him. It was Saturday and their dad wouldn't be at work. He didn't know what to do after that or what would make the horrible feeling in his chest go away, but he wanted it gone. Months ago he had scoffed at Silver and how much he followed after Wade like a puppy sometimes, especially when Wade showed him attention, but Shadow understood it now. When you spent years without any love or affection, receiving it was first bewildering and then became addicting. And being removed from it even slightly was awful. To his extreme disappointment, Wade had just gotten into the shower. For a moment, Shadow considered just waiting outside the bathroom until he was done and then dismissed that idea, deciding that was close to pathetic, that he wasn't a baby who needed to do something so dumb. Instead, he turned and headed for the living room.
Dad said you need to do your chores, since you did do them last night.
Silver told him cheerfully from where he was eating blueberries at the table. Since it was warmer now and they didn't need to bring in wood for the stove at the moment, his new chore was sweeping the kitchen, living room and around the table. Their dad had even gotten him a broom that was the right size for him to use, instead of having to struggle with the massive human-sized one.
Why don't you have to do yours?
Silver kept eating.
I already did mine.
Sighing, Shadow went to search for the broom and began to sweep. At least when their dad got out of the shower, he would see this first. Maybe it would make things better. His plans to clean lasted all of 45 seconds until he found Silver's boots, carelessly tossed on the living room floor.
Silver, you need to pick up your shoes.
I am busy.
No, you're not. Come pick them up.
Shadow said, as he couldn't tell what he was doing that made him so busy. The gray hedgehog barely spared him a glance before turning his back to him.
You were not the boss of me.
Shadow glared at him.
I am trying to do my chores and your shoes are in the way.
Silver only shrugged.
Then pick them up yourself.
No, they're your shoes.
Dropping the broom, Shadow folded his arms.
Pick them up right now.
Nope. You're not the boss of me, and I don't have to listen to you, so there!
He stuck his tongue out for good measure. Furious, Shadow couldn't believe his brother was acting this way. All he wanted him to do was come get his shoes, but instead he just sat there smugly eating blueberries. He could have even used his powers to do it and not even have to get up from the chair, but he wouldn't.
Pick them up or else.
Pausing from tossing blueberries in the air and trying to catch them in his mouth, Silver looked briefly surprised.
Or what?
Or else this.
He yelled, hitting Silver directly across the face twice with his own boot. He would have done it a third time, except the motion knocked the gray hedgehog right out of his chair and onto the floor. Breathing harder than normal, the two hedgehogs just stared at each other for a long moment. Slowly, Silver brought his hand up to his face and wiped a drop of blood away from his nose, staining his white glove as he transferred his shocked look from his brother down toward it. His chin wobbled and he let out a thin whine.
Dad!
He shrieked, scrambling to his feet, burst into tears and ran down the hallway. Shadow let the boot drop out of his hand as his ears folded down. One moment Wade was standing in the shower, rubbing shampoo into his hair, humming classic rock to himself, and then he heard shrieking out in the hallway. Frantically he shut off the water and jumped out. By pure luck, he had brought to a robe into the bathroom and hurriedly threw that on before he opened the door.
What's wrong?
Silver was standing outside the bathroom door, one hand pressed against his muzzle with spots of blood on his glove, openly crying.
Shadow hit me in the face with a shoe! On purpose!
Kneeling down, Wade saw the darker hedgehog slowly coming toward them, looking every inch the guilty party. Ears flat against his head, staring down at the floor.
Did you hit your brother across the face with a shoe?
A tiny nod. Narrowing his eyes, Wade felt a flash of frustration as Silver wrapped one arm around his shoulder and continued crying. It was one thing when Shadow was lashing out at him, it was completely another when he started doing it against his little brother.
Go to your room, now.
He ordered, knowing he wouldn't be able to deal with him at the moment. Turning back to Silver, Wade carefully picked him up.
Let me see Silver.
He said, setting him on the bathroom counter and pressed a wash rag against his nose. After a few seconds, it became clear that it wasn't that bad, and his nose stopped bleeding almost immediately. Gently, Wade probed Silver's nose and his muzzle and was relieved when nothing felt broken, nor did Silver didn't scream in pain. At least it looked like they wouldn't have to call Maddie before 10 a.m.
Well, it already stopped bleeding. I think you're going to be fine.
Wade said and eyed the gray hedgehog's gloves.
Although we might have to wash those.
Silver swiped at his eyes miserably.
Shadow just went crazy and attacked me for no reason.
Something about that sounded suspicious. Wade had a hard time believing that Shadow would just walk out into the living room and attack his brother on sight.
That's what happened? Shadow just hit you with a shoe for no reason? Did you say or do something first?
Silver looked down, hesitating long enough that Wade knew he had been right.
He wanted me to pick up my shoes so he could sweep, and I told him he's not the boss of me. And then he got mad and
Next time, just pick up your shoes.
Wade said with a sigh. It was times like this he wondered if he had gotten in over his head with deciding to adopt two kids. Seeing as he had been an only child and the two of them squabbling was incredibly confusing to him.
Is Shadow in trouble?
Pausing, Wade wasn't sure how to answer. Initially, he wanted to say yes, but he was also getting extremely concerned about the dark hedgehog's recent behavior and these violent outbursts. That wasn't normal, especially since now it seemed like small things were setting him off.
You don't need to worry about that,
he said. Every time he thought he had this parenting thing down, it just seemed to get harder.
Do you want an ice pack for your nose?
No, it's too cold.
That's the point, dude. All right, I'm going to finish my shower. Leave your brother alone. In fact, stay out in the living room until I talk to him.
Once Silver had wandered off in that direction and Wade spent a few moments pushing a towel around the floor to wipe up the wet footprints in the bathroom and hallway, he set his jaw, not sure what he was going to do next. It made him wonder if he should just bite the bullet, make an appointment with a therapist and hope that they could handle learning about alien mental health and not freak out. Whatever was going on, he wasn't going to leave the dark hedgehog alone until he had a better idea of what was going on. Once he was done showering and was dressed, Wade went to tap gently on their bedroom door. He took a deep breath, trying to be the one that was calm and collected, not secretly freaking out.
Shadow?
When there was no response, not as much as a sound from inside the room, he opened the door. And his jaw dropped. Sitting on his bed, the dark hedgehog stared ahead numbly. The first tear slipped down Shadow's muzzle and he didn't even try to wipe it away. He had hurt his brother. And over something so stupid had just lashed out and attacked him. He had hurt him. He hadn't meant to, he was just so frustrated and annoyed that Silver wouldn't listen to him. Wouldn't just do a simple thing like pick up his shoes and move them. Several feeble excuses came to mind that he hadn't meant to, that Silver had been acting bratty and wasn't listening to him. He gave him several chances to actually do it, that he hadn't meant to hurt him. Shadow couldn't help but think of that horrible dream he had, where those people, the bailiffs, had fitted that horrible metal muzzle over his face. It had been so realistic, he had even been able to taste blood where the metal cut into his lips and cheek, where the rough edge had rubbed the area raw, even in only a few minutes. The judge and jury said he had been too dangerous to be released because he would hurt people. And now he had. Another tear rolled down his face and fell onto the floor. There had been a small detail that he hadn't told Wade. In the dream he had been older. He knew because when sitting in a human-sized chair, his legs dangled off always at a certain point because of how very short he was. But in that dream, his legs were long enough that he just barely could brace them against the floor with his toes. Hugging his arms to his chest, Shadow couldn't stop trembling. He usually didn't have dreams, or if he did, they were random nonsense. But now he was scared. Did it mean that was going to happen? Shadow heard footsteps and looked up sharply, but the bedroom door stayed closed. Wade must have been furious with him. After what happened yesterday and then this, it made sense he didn't blame Wade. If it had been the other way around, Shadow wouldn't have been happy with himself either. Suddenly it felt like he couldn't breathe. The bedroom was too small and he couldn't take it anymore. Getting up, Shadow went to the window, opened it, pushed the screen out and stuck his head outside. and then leaned over far enough until he tumbled out onto the grass below. Starting to walk still just in his socks, he had no idea what he was doing or where he was going, just that he couldn't stop crying. He crossed their backyard, another person's backyard, went across a street, through a third backyard, and then into the woods. He just needed a few minutes. Just needed to get away from that situation, at least long enough to get his thoughts in order. As soon as he was deep enough into the woods, far enough away that he couldn't hear cars or anything else from the town, Shadow threw back his head and screamed as loud as he could. Just one long note of frustration, anger, and pain that ended in a sob. It wasn't fair. He had gotten up wanting to make it better, and he had only made it so much worse. He had only been awake for 20 or 30 minutes. He hadn't even eaten anything yet, and it seemed like everything was crumbling faster than he could process. Curling into a ball under a tree, he kept sobbing. He didn't even know if he could go back. What if they were furious with him and didn't want him around anymore? Thought he was a terrible brother and an even worse person. That he was too dangerous to be around anymore. Minutes later, he felt the connection in his mind a second before he heard the voice.
So do you think, are you all right? What's wrong now?
Go away.
Shadow thought savagely, not wanting anyone else to be aware of his grief.
What's wrong? You can tell me.
For some strange reason, the urge to yell at that person to go away and leave him alone died almost instantly. It was almost strange how quickly it happened.
I tried to make things better with my family this morning, and I only made it worse. And now, I don't know if I can go back.
Did they throw you out?
No, I just left.
Would you rather come here with me?
Shadow sniffed.
Why would I want to do that?
We both have chaos powers and we both share
Chaos what?
the ability to use chaos control. I was told you have those abilities. Can't you do that? Have you not figured it out yet?
Shadow had no idea what they were talking about but was intrigued.
No. If I came there, would it be just to visit?
Why would you want to go back? You're always miserable there. And doesn't your so-called human dad not even like you?
Glancing back in the direction of Green Hills, Shadow thought about it for several seconds. If this person had asked him a few days ago, he would have said no. But now he wasn't too sure. He didn't feel like he belonged there anyway, and Wade and Silver and everyone else would probably be happier that he left, not having to deal with him and his issues anymore. All he did was cause problems. Besides, he couldn't hurt anyone else if he physically wasn't there to do it. It would be fine. They'd forget about him quickly.
You're really just like me.
Shadow could almost hear the other person grinning.
More than you know. And I've got so much to tell you. I'll bring you here, okay? Don't worry, I've been practicing this a lot.
Before he could protest or ask how that would happen, the dark hedgehog's vision blurred out as the forest disappeared, and he reappeared in a large chamber that was pulsing with energy and color. In front of him was an alien the same height as him with dark gray and red-colored skin. He had black eyes with jagged yellow pupils, red spikes on his arms and legs, a long forked tail, and no shoes or gloves.
It worked. You're here.
Shadow stared at him.
You didn't hear me before when I introduced myself before, did you?
The alien asked, flashing yellow teeth as he spoke, pure excitement and delight in his voice.
I'm Eclipse the Darkling. I'm your brother, and there's so much to tell you.